But I mean, I'll be lucky. I need to sit in
Water.
So just, we're just gonna record the meeting so that, everyone's settled down.
Settle down.
Thank you.
So that robot can make our minutes, so no one has to take notes anymore, yay! All right, I will now share my screen again. The agenda. All right, take it away.
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order since we have a forum. First order of business is pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
See, the school systems do a good job. Do that every day for 6 years.
Do they still do it?
Well, I don't know, they did it for us.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably sometimes at assemblies or something.
Do we do it every week?
Oh, you do?
Once a week? Just
Yeah,
once
they
a
usually do
week?
it weekly
Weekly.
now in school. They don't do it every morning.
Huh.
They're more efficient.
Oh.
Winners.
I have one comment, because of the recording and the minute situation, make sure you speak clearly and loudly towards the owl, especially when you're making a motion and stuff like that, so it can, okay.
So, roll call. Okay.
This would be a good time to be clear and say your name, for the minutes.
Carol Lofgren.
Bridget Sorensen.
Donna Medicott.
Tim Shalley.
Robin Doty, oh, sorry.
Allie Pollock.
Cameron Martinez.
And Cameron Martinez is our ex officio from City Council, and I'm the library director, Robin Doty. Excused are Nandu Yana, and absent is Larry Gonzalez.
The consent agenda, the review and approval of the March 20th today's agenda. Any additions or changes
I
on the
Move
agenda?
that we accept the agenda in the minutes.
Okay,
I second. Donna seconds.
Carol's first.
And then you
Okay,
say all in favor.
good. All in favor of approving the minutes and the agenda?
Aye.
The minutes have, the consent agenda has been approved unanimously. Any public comment?
No members of the public present.
Reports, the library's director's report and library staff report for 2024 March.
Yeah.
So I believe after next meeting, after doing the AI minutes, you'll come back and give us a lesson on where we need to improve.
If I turn on captions, which we are supposed to have on also, we don't have anyone from the public here, but it'd be good for me to practice.
It'll probably be obvious to us.
That'll kind of show you
Oh,
when it doesn't put the words right, maybe then you'll know you have to speak a little more clearly.
if it spells my name right, and if you don't give it any hints, I'll be very impressed.
It won't spell my name right.
All right, well, so just one staff report this time. I tried to do 3 last time, but we have new art, as you can see, and we will have an artist reception for Sherry. She is gonna have her art up for 3 months or so, so that gives us time to do an artist reception. The previous display was only up for just exactly a month, so we didn't have time to put a full gathering together. And then just my other announcements in my report, we're gonna open late on Library Workers Day, 2 hours at noon. And that is so that we can have a little staff in service morning with it's Library Workers Day, it's National Library Week on April 9th. And that's a Tuesday, and we're gonna have some facilitated activities. We have a kind of a fun consultant, trainer person coming in, and we're gonna have a therapy animal or animals visit. And we'll have a little like breakfast burrito bar for the staff. It's just something to, not all the staff gets to work together, and so the main reason for this is to just let everyone have a chance to communicate with each other and do a little team building.
Great.
Yeah. Also, just to let you know that our volunteer recognition dinner, the citywide dinner, the spaghetti dinner, it's called now Noodles
and Doodles. Doodles and Doodles.
Oodles of Noodles and Doodles or something. Please do come, you're a volunteer. As library board members, you're more than welcome to come, bring your families. It's free spaghetti. We will make sure we have a vegetarian option this year. And that is April 11th, and we'll have volunteer awards and so forth presented. The mayor presented them last year.
People should make it gluten-free. Spaghetti.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
People should bring their doodle dogs.
That'd be cute.
Not sure
That
that's
would
what
be
they
cute.
meant by doodles, but okay.
Doodles and
Well,
doodles.
last time they had the tables covered with paper and you
Yeah.
could draw on it.
That's cute, yeah.
So it's just, it's nice to recognize the volunteers, and Jessie Mays is looking really great. We got a big cleanup. We had a deep cleaning done, the windows were all cleaned, the floor was machine scrubbed.
Wow.
It even smells good in there, so,
Oh, good.
Ooh.
yeah. And
Doesn't smell bad.
I mean, you know,
That can
it's got
make
that old gym, so for the mayor's state of the city, it was really.
That could make
So-
it hard to go home. If it's that clean.
Well.
It smells better in your house, you say?
So I just hope you could join us that evening at Jessie Mays, April 11th, for some volunteer appreciation. Since Carol is on leave, Sheila is our interim volunteer coordinator right now, and she is, working on recognition for that event and is going to present.
Cool.
So she
Can
wants to
we
present.
ask how Carol's husband?
Yeah.
Things, I got an update last week, but maybe I should talk about it after,
Okay,
since we're on recordings.
okay,
That I'll give, she says it's fine to give people updates, but
okay. That's-
this will be on the website and everything.
Yeah, no, that's very appropriate.
Catch you, Heather.
Yeah, I have to ask, I think Lori does read that, things, but I'm not exactly sure how that works, so. And when it's appropriate, since it's public, you know what I mean? So,
No, I think it's
Yeah.
a good judgment on your part. Thank you for,
yeah, and so you'll see in my report that we have, if you remember, we got an Oregon Humanities Grant to present an expansion on our Letters from Home series, and the first one is actually coming up next month already on April 18th. And this is in cooperation with an organization called Immigrant Story, sponsored by Oregon Humanities, and we will have an author and 2 presenters tell us about their experience moving to Oregon from another country. And we will be giving away some copies of the book. And because of the grant, we're gonna have a really nice, have decorations. We'll probably just play music at this one, but there will be some live music at future ones, and some great food.
Oh,
because, and we're able to, you know, get have some speaker, be able to give an honorarium to the speakers and that kind of thing. So it's really wonderful. The others are still in the works and will be coming up in the summer. June and July, if I'm not mistaken. So that one, yeah, save the date, April 18th. It's a Thursday. I have to say our 4-H STEM craft program that we've been doing, that Emily partnered with 4-H to do, this room is packed once a month on the Wednesday when they do that. And they use this big table here, and they do these really cool programs that teach engineering and math, science, and it's just it looks really fun, and it's packed in here.
Great.
So it's been very successful. So, you know, we don't do program series without an end date, but we did kind of renew this one to continue on and keep doing it for now.
What is the age range of the company?
This one is well, it's youth. I mean, it's parents are there with their kids, but it's mainly geared towards elementary school age. And that's who usually I see here participating. Some younger siblings. Our cozy evening story time, we've done a few months of that now, or maybe just over a month. And it is, we're not getting very much attendance. And so we've been encouraged by community members, council to offer some evening things for working parents, but we just really haven't had people come for the evening story time. Just a couple of, usually 1 or 2 families come. So I'm not sure that we'll.
What time is it?
We've been having it at the last hour. We're open at 6.
Oh, okay.
Most kids' bedtimes isn't until 7.
But if the parents are coming home and
Home
having
from
to fix
work,
dinner.
yeah.
having dinner, and I mean, to me,
Yeah.
So we are asking for feedback from participants, so maybe we can, you know, try another day or another, I don't know if we would really have another time option, but that's just an update on that.
what are the, what time do we close, you close on Saturday?
5.
I mean.
We could try a Saturday one
But,
during the
I mean,
day.
if what I heard you say is that the city and the council encourage you to try to involve some working parents, is that?
Yeah, I've
So
had
you-
some suggestions a couple
Yeah,
times,
you
have
might try,
something.
might consider something on Saturday.
We have tried Saturday story times before, and they didn't have attendance. North Plains is pretty quiet on the weekend. However, larger events on Saturday have gone okay, so. And we will do that for summer reading. We'll have Saturday events. But yeah, we'll ask the community what we could try next as far as that goes. Oh, and then just the final thing, our book club sort of fizzled out. That's okay. We have been having a monthly library book club for a long time, and it's just at a kind of a point where it's time to step back and kind of reevaluate that. Do we want to make it themed? Do we want to use that time to do something different, like a trivia night at one of the local establishments, or, you know, like what's the next thing? So, you know, we're talking about that as a programming team. Book clubs can always use the library to meet. Like, it doesn't have to be run by us. We welcome any groups to use our space for that and during open hours.
That's it?
That's it from my report.
Okay, very good. Any questions from anyone? Thank you. The library statistics, is that?
I did print some of those out. So you could, and because I thought if you didn't want to keep it, I would just have them in the library for handouts, because I think they're interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're having solid numbers still. We continue to have more visitors and more checkouts than the previous year. And our computer hours are going back up now that our computers are all functional. Yeah.
I'm surprised that for volunteer and staff hours,
They're down.
yeah,
Well, one of the reasons for that is Carol being on leave.
of course.
And we're not backfilling all of her hours, just the way we have the work divided up. Some things are just, we've sort of are on pause, and then we're just sort of doing the essentials as far as volunteer coordination right now.
Carol was off, had a 90-day leave, 3 months or something.
Yeah, she should be back beginning of May.
Okay. Any questions on the statistics? Looks like we're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like this snapshot because it's helpful for me too, to see it all in one place like that. How many items did we add, et cetera.
I'm sorry, you folks on Zoom, any questions? Well, finance report?
There was one more statistic, which is just the, countywide checkout, which is, I have it up on the screen, and just sort of showing our, here we are up almost 15%
Wow.
from last year, but like Aloha had a big jump. I believe last year they may have been closed, they had to move to a smaller location, and that's, yeah, they've had to kind of, they're very nimble. I mean, they really respond to kind of what constraints they have. And so they may have had to close last year in this month, and that might be why it's so different. But in general, I see a good trend. Most libraries having
Less than us, yeah.
or well,
Less of an increase.
less of an increase, but
Yeah,
still an
yeah.
increase, which I like to see.
Yeah,
Because
everybody's got an increase.
I do want all the libraries to do well. It makes me happy when library use is going up. Just happy.
So we had, what, I can't afford.
So this number is also on this statistics up here, borrowed from our location number is what they use. And then, so you see us here, we're one of the littler library, bank, usually we're kind of neck and neck with banks, but we've been checking out more than them lately.
Who's our next competition we have to run over?
Well,
Steve-
Cornelius.
Right.
For a while there, we had more circulation from them during COVID,
Did we?
because we were able to really, get that curbside pickup going quickly. Yeah, anyway, but all the libraries are great.
Finance?
Yeah, so I did edit this a tiny bit. I took out just some lines that with interest, it's just not being updated on the city side, so we do get a fraction, we do get some interest attributed to our department, but I can't really show it to you until the finance department does it differently. So I just sort of removed that line because it wasn't adding value for your purposes, but we are. So I'll just summarize what I said last time, since not everybody was here. There is this line in our budget called grants expenditure. We didn't budget to anything for that. Basically, the way municipal budgets work is you have to show the money coming in as revenue, and then you have to show it being spent. And so because we know that we could get grants and so forth, you know, we have budgeted that we will get some restricted grants and donations up here, some unrestricted donations, and then we get that money, especially if it's more than we anticipated, we have to spend it out of somewhere. So we have this grants expenditure line that was sort of created to show the expenditure, but because it's not, because we don't put a number in it to start with, which maybe we should have put the same amount we anticipated for grants down there. I mean, looking back, we didn't. So it just makes it look like we're overspending. And it's not showing what category it's being spent out of, which is also a problem for forecasting. So the finance director and I are have a plan to create a new category called the project fund that has capital, personnel, and materials and services, like 3 main categories. So we can show kind of what the grant funds are going towards. So that's in process, and it'll make it a little clearer when we're reporting to you. So if you take that grant expenditure out, and because all this stuff is purchased, you know, in this budget cycle, then you'll see that we're just right on track for budget, not overspent.
So on the very bottom line, the equipment and the hardware, didn't you just get a bunch of new stuff?
You mean these computers
Yeah.
here? So again, those were spent out of the grants
Oh, that's
expenditure
right,
line
yes.
instead of because it, you know, it was like our regular operational budget for the city. We do budget for equipment and hardware because we need to replace things regularly or something's gonna break. The grant funds, we can't spend on that, on those routine needs. The grant funds are reserved for this special project. So we can't actually, it wouldn't be appropriate to code it to our regular equipment and hardware line. But if we have a project fund with an equipment and hardware line, then that would be appropriate because it would show that it's separate from the regular running of the library.
So what we're saying here for the year to date, it's showing 1,700 and change, where the target was over 5,000. So that's why there's that discrepancy. You spent a lot less under equipment and hardware.
It's interesting because there is something missing from there. Because we did replace some staff laptops, so that number will be updated once
okay.
that's. So it was time to replace staff laptops that are 4+ years old, and so you'll.
Which has nothing to do
So
with
we
these
have
guys.
spent about 5,000, I think.
Oh, okay.
In actuality, it just hasn't been posted yet, I guess. Don't see it anywhere else. But you should see that updated next time. And our library materials are just right where they need to be, which is a little over forecast because you want us to have that spent before, a little bit before, because you're buying things that are going to be published in the future, like 6 months out.
So you pay for those things as soon as you order them, even though they're not going to be released to you, okay?
We don't, but we encumber it. And so Eric kind of, that's a good question. As soon as there's an invoice, it gets put in.
But you've committed to buying it, so it's probably right that it's gotta be in here, even though it hasn't been actually
Yeah.
paid for, because otherwise you would end up overspending when it finally came in.
That's
So,
true. They invoice us right when they ship them. So,
there's a-
Right.
but there is a little, and we do a little pause we do a pause in June because procurement systems on a regular fiscal year, so we have to kind of pause to let the chips fall a little, anyway. Have Eric come present
There
that
you go.
sometime for you.
What is the ARPA grant? Is that the one you were talking?
That is the American Rescue Plan Act, the
Okay.
COVID funds that we were able to buy these like wipeable chairs
Okay,
with, and that was our, and then we've been paying for our hotspots with ARPA funds because it addresses the digital divide. That was a big need that was highlighted by the pandemic. They're quite expensive, so we're looking for some other options, since the ARPA funds are,
Trying that.
yeah, I mean, they're getting spent, you know, they're not, we don't want to be dependent on those ongoing. So we're looking for a more economical way to provide hotspots or internet for people.
I'd hate to see the hotspots go away.
They won't go away. In fact, Eric and I were researching something yesterday that could be a good alternative. Other hotspots. They're less expensive.
so. All right, any questions on the financial? Zoomers? Okay. Next item is ongoing business. The county library funding, the cooperative funding.
Yes, I do have a very short update for you on that. Make sure Larry didn't try to. So tomorrow is the kickoff meeting with the consultants for the executive board. And the executive board, again, the city managers or for nonprofit libraries, like their director or president of their board or what have you. So the executive board is meeting with the consultants tomorrow in downtown Hillsborough and with county administration. So we'll have a county administrator there with us. And it'll be the first, we'll be kicking off the project, introductions, we'll go over the timeline.
Will you attend with Andy?
Yes, I will be there. Yep. So library directors and the executive board are invited, and that's tomorrow at 11 in Hillsborough.
And remind me, this is for funding that will be voted on in 2025?
Yes, it'll be, this project is looking at the whole funding and governance structure of our cooperative to see if it's meeting the needs of the community, what are the, what do we want baseline service to be to make sure all libraries have resources to provide that. And then that will inform what to ask for the next levy cycle to fund it.
Yeah, so the process is determine what people believe is needed within the cooperative and then determine that cost and that will be
Yep.
rolled into the levy. Correct?
Yeah, that's what the consultants are doing. They're gonna be doing a lot of engagement with the community to determine what the standard of library service should be that people want and how much it costs.
Pastor, next month, can we have that expanded a little bit since you'll have the first meeting tomorrow?
Yeah,
and we-
yes, I will. I can have, in fact, I was gonna see if maybe Andy would be willing to come and give you an update now, once we have the first meeting or
So it'll
something
be on
like
the
that.
agenda.
Yeah, like put it on the agenda because there will be something more to say, hopefully.
I mean, in our, and doing the agenda, we plan on following this every meeting. And the detail will depend on any changes that, any significant information that needs to be passed on to you. But we plan on keeping that on the agenda, so it doesn't escape us.
Yeah.
Any questions on that? New business?
Yeah. So we have one item on there. I have a presentation prepared for you all this evening. And this is partly, you look surprised. We did it, we made the agenda together. You're not surprised, are you, Tim? Okay.
No, I'm
Okay,
not
good.
surprised. I mean, I'm out of agenda. I'm out of agenda.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
No, you're in the-
Oh, the
Sorry.
second page. Oh, I apologize. That's what the look was. Okay.
No, I guess my own fault.
No,
No, I
like
thought
something-
we were going to go over the project. Yeah,
So I have a presentation.
yeah.
Yeah, so, to share my, so what you see here is, well, they're almost all, working properly now. Our new grant funded workstations and, they have some great features and I will demonstrate a few of those, but first I have a little presentation on disability awareness, and this presentation is, it has 3 short video clips and a few slides, and it's giving you the highlights of some training that myself and all the staff did as part of this grant process. Before we spent any money on this grant, we had trainings to do. I had the grant, the person in charge of the grant, the program manager for it, that was required, but then I had all the staff do the disability awareness training because I thought it was so informative. And then we talked to the community before we proceeded on the project. So the project changed quite a bit from the training we took and the people we talked to in the community. It changed from kind of one special station with all the bells and whistles to having more universal design where all the stations had accessibility features, because that's a lot more welcoming for people to not be singled out like that. I was just going to give you the highlights of that disability awareness training, and I want to make sure I'm sharing screen. Excuse me. There we go. Okay, can you see the first slide, understanding disability? Okay, great. All right, so I'll just start the slideshow. And I have to go back and forth to a video. So just forgive me, it's a little clunky, but it's just how it has to work. So the trainers went over with us first, like what is a disability and defining that, because it may or may not be what you are imagining, but a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more of your major life activities. It can occur on a spectrum, and it could be visible to people or hidden or both. And a disability can ebb and flow, and it could be something you acquire at any age. And so you may be able to think of a time that you had a disability or have, and because it might be hidden, but I know that like when I had childbirth, like surgery, I was disabled for a while. There were things I couldn't do. I couldn't lift. It impacted my major life activities. And so I have the first video clip that introduces the presenters. And I'm not sure if I alt tab if it's gonna, where did my video go? Sorry, one sec. I couldn't, because I can't clip a video that's not mine.
Oh,
I have to instead go to it on the web. I want to make sure I can share it. listening to me? Let me know if you see the, oh, there it is. Okay. Okay. All right, can you hear, if you're on Zoom, can you hear the video? Could you hear the video briefly? You couldn't hear it? We're hearing it through the owl.
Yeah,
Okay,
You can't hear it today. I
I
didn't hear that.
just wanted to make, so maybe I have to turn off the slideshow
Okay.
completely. One sec.
turn the switch.
Oh, it's first mistake
First
is
one I
made.
saw.
I was pretty impressed there.
Don't worry. I'm gonna do that. Okay. Now can you hear it? You still can't hear it?
Yeah.
No, but we have captions.
I don't understand why that would be if the volume's coming through the owl.
They can read the caption.
Should I unplug that?
I'm okay reading the captions if you are, Cameron.
No.
Yeah, that's fine. I can read the
I'm
thing.
sorry about that. I tested it, but I didn't test it for someone zooming in. So we can
Sometimes-
hear it in here through the speakers, and I don't know why if we can hear it, you wouldn't be able to hear it.
Sometimes if you do share screen, it won't do some of the sound. If you do share like everything or whatever on Zoom or like your whole, sometimes that's the case, but I'm okay reading.
So if I don't share it,
If you share, you know, when it says either share screen or whole computer or something like that, you have to do like the whole computer option.
try that. Just, this is the last thing I'll try. I don't want it.
Okay.
Sports and the fitness and recreation industries. Joining her is Bridget Heyman. She is the communications director at Access Living. While heading end-to-end communications and media relations for the organization, Bridget also leads Access Living's consulting and training services, integrating disability inclusion best practices into the diversity efforts of companies, nonprofits, and foundations. Before joining the Access Living team, Bridget held communications roles at Easter Seals National, Balance Health, the American Dental Association, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois, Edelman Public Relations, and the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Ashley.
Thank you so much, Samantha. We're so excited to be here with all of you today. As Samantha mentioned, my name is Ashley Eisenminger, and I just want to kind of further give you a picture of who I am and kind of the relevant experience that I bring to the space that we're in, and then I'll give Bridget the opportunity to do the same as well before we kind of get going with our content today. So I am a person with a disability. I've had a disability my entire life. I'm blind, and so I use a variety of assistive technologies to access everything from the computer that I'm calling in from today to spaces in my community. Another unique thing about me is that while I live in Chicago now, I grew up in a really, really small town wedged between a few cornfields in central Illinois. And so I bring a really unique perspective on accessibility in both city and urban spaces, like the suburbs where I went to college and the city that I live in now, but also rural spaces like my hometown where I grew up and where I still go home to visit my family and friends. With that, Bridget, do you want to do a brief overview of yourself and your lived experience, and then we can get going?
Absolutely, Ashley. Thank you very much. My name is Bridget Heyman. I have the pleasure of working with Ashley on our training and consulting efforts, and it is an absolute pleasure to be here with you today. I also bring lived disability experience to the table. I am a wheelchair user with cerebral palsy and have lived with a disability my entire life. And so I am used to navigating the world from a disability perspective as a wheelchair user. I use that experience now in my day-to-day work at Access Living when it comes to elevating disability stories and working with groups like you to essentially apply a disability lens to the work that you do. So again, we're so excited to be here with you today. And
All right, so that was the introduction. Can you hear me? I hope on Zoom you can hear. Can you hear me talking? Okay, and all right.
Yeah, we could hear it when she did that. We heard her.
Oh, you
talk.
could? Oh, that's excellent. Oh, I'm so happy. Yeah. Yay.
So it totally,
Great.
it worked.
Great. Thank you for that tip. All right, I'm not gonna restart the slideshow, but I just will pull up the slides. And then so those were the trainers for this disability awareness. And as you heard, they have lived experience with disabilities. And so I just wanted to tell you sort of the philosophy around independent living, which they talked about some, is that people with disabilities can and should live self-directed lives wherever possible. It doesn't mean that someone with a disability will be able to do everything without help that someone else can do, but wherever possible, that we that they should have a say in the choice. That you don't say this is how you have to do it. You know, that that their lives should be self-directed and they should have a choice. And people with disabilities exist in all the same spaces and places that people without disabilities exist. And then we want to create opportunities to empower people, and that's essential for people to feel included. If people feel like they have to show up and they're gonna need, you know, special attention and this and that to participate, sometimes it's just easier to not do it. And so we want to create spaces where people can come in and use the spaces without feeling like they're being othered. And so the next clip, there's just 3 short clips, but the next clip talks about some of the different models that we use for disability models. This time I'll do it and it'll go perfectly. And I just have to go to the right spot. One moment.
Most people have no clue that in 2023, the best way to make money on Amazon is not with physical.
With that, I want to touch on how we perceive disability, because how we perceive disability or people with disabilities directly impacts how we treat them, how we behave around them, decisions that we might make, maybe unknowingly on their behalf, maybe knowingly on their behalf. And so there are a lot of different schools of thought when it comes to disability and how we perceive it. I think there's like 12 different models of disability officially. We've got 4 on this slide, and I have further broken them down into 2 different schools of thought. And so we're talking very high level here, but I think it's important because these 2 schools of thinking are probably the most prevalent that we see in our work these days. So the first is the medical and charity models of disability. These models are very much rooted in this idea that disability is something that we need to fix. That if someone has a disability, they are in fact the problem, their disability is the problem, and that it needs to no longer exist so that they can interact with the world as it is. These models are also rooted in this idea that professionals know best. So medical models pretty self-explanatory, right? We think doctors are sole decision makers for folks, right? Because they have the training and the knowledge, etc. But this can also be further applied to teachers, parents, depending on the situation, etc. Basically, people of authority, people of power. These models say that they should kind of be the decision makers here. These models are also rooted in this idea of special needs, right? That someone with a disability, because their needs differ from someone without a disability, those needs are special. I would argue that every human has different needs and no need is more or less special. They're just needs. But we'll get into that when we talk about language in a little bit. Then finally, more for the charity model specifically, there's this air of helplessness, this idea that disabled people need us to do stuff for them because they can't do it themselves. And so when we talk about charity in regards to the charity model of disability, I want to be really clear and intentional in saying that we're not talking about the act of being charitable, right? Tons of nonprofits exist. We're a nonprofit, ALA is a nonprofit, right? Tons of groups and organizations exist to fill gaps that society can't fill itself. And until we kind of get to a place where the world is made for everyone and you can truly show up as you are, we need organizations to provide critical supports and to help lower the barriers to entry, create better access and equity, etc. And so when I talk about the charity model of disability, I am by no means saying don't try to ask for donations for programming or grants or whatever. I'm not saying don't be a charitable person. I'm saying don't put people with disabilities in a box that says, they couldn't exist if I didn't help them. There's no way they could live this life if I didn't help them, right? Charity, in a positive sense, fills in the gaps created by an inequitable and inaccessible world. Moving to the opposite end of the spectrum, I want to talk about the social and cultural models of disability. So these models say that disability is a natural part of life, that it's something a lot of us are going to experience, that we're all going to experience either directly or indirectly, and that it is what it is. It also says that they also say that disabled people are their own best advocates, right? I know my lived experience better than anybody else on this planet because I live it every single day. As such, I should be involved in conversations about myself, decisions made about my life, etc. These models are also rooted in this idea that we have civil rights. So everything that, right, non-disabled folks are entitled to, disabled folks should also be entitled to. And when I say that out loud, I have to almost stop myself and make sure what I'm saying makes sense, because it feels such a kind of difficult thing to have to communicate, because I feel like we should already be there, but as you'll learn, we're not. And we're working tirelessly to continue to try to bridge that gap. But looking at these 2 main schools of thoughts, I also want to note that it's important to understand that nobody truly, like, there's no right or wrong spot. It's a spectrum, right? So some folks may be firmly rooted in one school of thought or the other school of thought. Other folks may hold some attributes of certain philosophies and perspectives. Others might hold other values. There's some mixing and matching that can happen, and that's okay. I will say that when we look at like the justice movements, we're seeing a lot of shifts in disabled people adopting this social cultural model of disability, but disability identity and understanding who you are as a disabled person is a journey, and folks kind of go through the gamut of feelings and thoughts around disability. It's also not necessarily a linear journey, and I think that's important to keep in mind.
So I'll pause it there, and instead of going back to the slideshow, I'll just say a few comments that were on my next slides in the interest of time, which were that what she's saying about the civil rights and kind of like being proud of who you are movement, that some people now are asking for you to use like disability first language with them. Like, I'm part of the blind community, I'm a blind individual, putting disabled before the person. And then some people still prefer to be have person first language, where person with a disability, person with blindness. But there is a movement for people to say, you know, I'm a deaf kid, or instead of like, I'm someone who can't hear. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like owning it. That's just who I am. If you know a person well enough, you can ask them what they prefer. If you're not sure, they say just kind of default to the person first language with people. But take your cues from them. How are they talking about themselves and stuff like that. And then just the final clip is just a few minutes of things not to say. and then we'll end with that for the presentation. This is just some highlights from a longer training that we did.
We even use that in schools. They don't say like, you know, so and so's a diabetic, it's student with diabetes. Like, there's a lot of different things with like health conditions at school, and we use that language when doing that, because I work with a lot of special ed teachers, classrooms, stuff like that too, in the school district. So it's kind of adopted that language like everywhere.
Person first language.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. That's Cameron. I don't have her up right now, but Counselor Martinez is a school nurse.
Sorry, it's me talking. Yeah, I work for the school district. So I have one of the medicine
share. I'm worried I won't be able to get it back properly.
Yeah, no worries.
No problem. Okay. Thank you for that. All right. So this is just the final clip about what language.
Do a good cue of what you should say. Now, for most of our clients, this tends not to be enough. So on the next slide, which we'll go to now, I do have some examples for you of words to avoid and what to say instead, right? These are very broad, very basic examples. And I would love to hear what you think of these. You may find some of them surprising, but be sure to mention in the Q&A if you've got any questions around these. I do see that there are some questions, and I'm going to save them to the end. But words to avoid: wheelchair bound or confined to a wheelchair. Instead, say uses a wheelchair or wheelchair user. I've got a good personal story about this. My husband, when he was my boyfriend, told me once upon a time, wow, you know, I really resent your wheelchair. I wish you didn't have to use it. And I was stunned when he said this to me. As much as I could take a breath and really appreciate the intention of his sentiment there, it never crossed my mind ever to resent my wheelchair. In fact, my wheelchair is my mobility device that gives me my freedom to participate in the world and to do so many things that are more accessible to me than they would be if I didn't have the opportunity to use a wheelchair. So that's an example of how the words that we use carry a connotation, right, of what we think about people with disabilities. And the same is true for the next example. Suffers from cerebral palsy, as opposed to saying, hey, I have cerebral palsy. I'm not suffering, I'm very healthy, you know, but cerebral palsy is something that I have, and it does impact my day-to-day, so it should not be ignored. We have a tendency to want to use kind of cutesy language around disability instead of simply saying disability. So some of the things you'll hear are diverse abilities or special needs or physically challenged. Special needs is something we hear in education all of the time. Actually, special education is the official term. And then of course there's, you know, outdated language like crippled or cripple. Instead, simply say people with disabilities or disabled people for the reasons that we have discussed, and avoid those cutesy words because they do nothing to really help people with disabilities integrate into society as equals. Instead of saying able-bodied or normal, because really what is normal, say non-disabled or a person without a disability. Next slide, please. Got a few more for you. This next one's really hard. I find it myself tripping up on this because handicap parking, we look at a lot of the handicap parking signs, right? And they actually say handicap parking. But we encourage you to say accessible parking instead, because there's a big difference, actually. As a wheelchair user who drives, if I can't find an accessible parking space, I literally can't get out of the car. And so accessible parking really describes what that space means to me, how I'm using it. And it doesn't signify it as something special because I get to park closer. That's equal access in my case. Hearing impairment or visual impairments, the deaf and hard of hearing community, the blind and low vision community have said that they prefer the other terms. And then certainly, absolutely steer clear of mental retardation. Instead, say a person with a cognitive, developmental, or intellectual disability. So I'm sure you have lots of thoughts on this. Like I said, some of it might be.
Okay. So those are some highlights of the disability awareness training that I myself and all the staff took. And I hope it was informative for you. And it definitely made us think about this grant project differently. And so we did what we could to have these workstations have as many elements as possible to make them, turn that off, but easy to use for people. The monitors can move as close or high or low as you need. They're still a little like loosening up a little, these arms. And the tables move up and down.
Oh, nice.
The legs are wide enough to accommodate a wheelchair on all the tables. We have these large print high contrast keyboards, and we have some different kinds of mice and some software that also helps, like the screen readers and things like that.
These are nice.
Yeah.
I like when it's home.
Yeah.
That was an interesting presentation.
Yeah.
It made me think a little bit about it differently than I ever had.
She didn't say anything about the expression of challenge this, challenge that, physically challenged, hearingly challenged. You hear that a lot, and how do they feel about that?
I'm not sure, that might fall into the category of kind of cutesy language she was
Yeah.
talking about. I'm not sure though.
Well, using challenge sounds like you should be able to overcome it.
Yeah,
you know, so-
yeah.
Since it's already after 8, we could maybe have like a part 2 about this when we talk about our next grant project and have some more time for discussion. But
That sounds good.
our next grant project, because we were awarded $20,000 for the second round, will be, we did, yeah. So a wayfinding project in the library. So with same kind of theories, universal design, signage. There's even these auditory beacons you can put around to help people find their way around. And we're gonna have a consultant work with us as part of the second round, who's actually a blind person herself.
Great job.
Very good.
Good decisions. All that, yes.
Friends of the library.
So the friends are meeting, well, we talked last time, they would like someone from the board to attend their monthly meetings, not
Okay.
just the quarterly, but Carol had.
Oh, I thought it was just one meeting.
Well, right, so we had talked about possibly rotating,
Yeah.
since.
Because I think my turn is nearly up here. Maybe I'll go, and
That's right, that's right. So they would like a library board member to attend their meetings so that the library board's aware of their fundraising efforts and what's going on.
When is their meeting?
So Carol is
it's
gonna,
April 8th, I think.
their next meeting is April 8th, and then there'll be one. I can communicate out and we can maybe do a little schedule of who could go.
Next one would be in July.
Well,
Quarterly.
they are meeting monthly right
Oh,
now
monthly.
because they're a
So-
newer board.
Probably May.
So May,
So do we know when they're meeting? April,
April 8th.
you have
Yeah.
April 8th, right?
Yeah.
I
We
think it's
wanna
the first
have a
Monday.
volunteer for
or
May,
second.
whenever May is.
We can discuss it next month.
Yeah, I can follow up with the schedule.
Yeah,
We
well,
can
yeah, we
finalize
could,
it
yeah.
at the next library board meeting, since we do
Oh, no,
have,
wait, you're right.
But we won't.
This is March, yeah, so it,
well,
April.
Carol's
April.
attending in
Oh, yes,
April.
yes, okay.
And then we could figure out
Yeah,
May.
you're right.
But I can send out an email in between.
Yeah.
Can you pass me one of those pencils?
We could you could fill in a calendar, or we could just do it monthly.
Yeah,
We'll discuss that.
See who's available. And then they are working on the Garlic Festival book sale. That's the big thing they're working on right now.
The other friend.
So.
Cameron, do you have any words of wisdom for us?
Not too much. We had, I don't know, I know Robin was at the State of the City on Monday. I'm not sure if any of you attended, but I thought it was really nice. I thought it was well attended with, guests that were there. They had great little snacks, and then you can watch Mayor Lenahan's address, I think, on YouTube now through the TVC TV.
Okay,
No,
so you
they're
can watch it now? It's on-
Yeah, I think you can watch it now on YouTube, because the whole thing
Okay.
was,
I
it was
did it.
streamed live.
It didn't finish off on YouTube though, it stopped before the end of
Before
it.
she did.
Before she did, the YouTube did.
Oh, bummer. I haven't gone to see it. I was gonna find it to share because my husband didn't get to attend, but yeah, there was that. And then I don't know if you guys are up on the whole House Bill 4026 that was proposed about the referendum measure that was going to be on our ballot, but the governor did sign that House bill today.
So that basically will have, we had met last week to have a resolution done so that if the governor did in fact sign this bill, that we have to direct the county to remove the ballot measure from the ballots for the May election. So that will be the case now that the governor has signed that bill.
I can explain it maybe briefly. The city kind of went through this legal process of land use in Oregon for about 7 years to identify the next kind of boundary expansion, because the current one is sort of built out.
Where did the governor get involved?
Right. So what happened was some groups, collected signatures and got it on the ballot to vote down the boundary expansion. And when kind of word got around to all the other Oregon cities who are all doing this kind of process, it was very worrying that something you put a lot of resources and tax dollars into to plan following the law could be thrown out at the ballot box by people who aren't really, by the general population who might not have the information about land use planning that process that you've gone through. And so in this case, a bill was proposed that this was not really an appropriate thing to vote on at this point in the process, that and so it was a bipartisan support. It passed both House and Senate, and the governor signed it.
So it doesn't just pertain to North Plains,
it's the whole state. It's just they're saying that we've got this process in place, and if cities are following it, it shouldn't be able to be halted at the ballot box. Because otherwise you can't.
And the land use thing's been going around for what, 70 years or something? I don't know, a long time. And then you never were able to really vote on it. It was up to the different areas.
Yeah, I mean, they had a process in place.
Yes.
And people it was established, and then all of a sudden they were using the election, the ballot to try to change the process or to stop it, basically.
So now
was North Plains the test case?
Well, it just seemed to alarm enough people where a bill was drafted because, this is happening. All Oregon cities have to follow this, and so everyone's in a different phase of the process, and just not wanting to have to start over with more taxpayer money, basically.
But what I was asking is that because North Plains put it on the ballot, was that's there was other cities were putting it on the ballot also, or was it?
I don't know about
North
that.
Plains didn't put it on the ballot. A group of people put it on the ballot.
They got signatures.
They basically gathered signatures in town, right? And I think it just happened to
gather signatures in town.
Right. I think it just happened to be the timing of it all too. And then I think it got attention in that way. But basically, the state requires us to plan and plan for growth, and then that kind of all took place. And so if you see, and you'll probably see, because I'm sure there'll be kind of a little fact Q&A type thing, just because kind of people were being misinformed and maybe not the facts were being shared. So just if you see it, and you might see it posted in city stuff.
Our elected officials didn't draft the bill or anything like that. It was other people.
Question. When did she sign it? Because the mayor just had her talk on Monday, it didn't explode. Or when was it signed?
It was signed this afternoon.
Oh, so she kind of left out and didn't have a crazy group.
There were a lot of people there that I've heard protest in public comment and things, but they all listened politely to the
So it wasn't an
speech, and
issue.
just some shouting happened during the clapping at the end.
Shouting
So-
during the clapping,
We, anyway, that was at the extent of it.
democracy in action.
Yeah,
Well,
for
it-
sure.
All that whole land use thing there, I remember my mother being very involved in it years and years ago. And there's a lot of thought put into it and how it's going to be the different government entities that decide, and, you know, the state will decide overall whether or not something should be increased for the urban growth boundaries. So this isn't a lightly taken thing in the least.
No,
It takes a lot to change an urban growth boundary.
yeah, and this is only a line, how the land will actually be zoned if it's brought in to the city limits. That will be another entire process with a lot of community input involved too. So if it's zoned residential or industrial or mixed use or et cetera. So that would be the next phase after
Well, it's
the
all-
line.
Yeah, it's part of the whole
Yeah, it's part of the
process.
process.
If you go to some other states, you can see what their no planning
Right,
has created, and you know that you're not everybody's gonna be happy. And
Right.
Some people are, you know, and so it's just but I think ever since I moved here in 1972 to Oregon, it's been a controversy.
yeah. I mean, there's really,
Of the LC,
because everyone's different, there isn't
So-
one size
Well,
fits all,
that's
but,
good.
you know, we are following the proper law and process here, and fortunately, we won't have to start over.
So it's been kind of on hold because of the May thing, or is it, that stuff still been happening quietly?
No, it's been on hold
But
because
it's not gonna start up again.
because the Washington County Planning Commission didn't make a decision. They wanted to wait and see about the vote and so forth. So I expect it'll proceed now, but still slowly following there's very many steps.
So like.
Yeah, there's still a ton of planning to be had
Tons, like this is
for
really
sure.
very early still. It's just a 20-year plan, and we wanted to not have to do it every 5 years because it's expensive.
Thank you.
But I just encourage everyone to get involved, you know, because this was literally just drawing kind of the line and the boundary. So there's so much more planning to get involved and discuss. So it's good to encourage, you know, others and community members in town to get involved with the process and everything.
Definitely. And I do encourage you to watch The State of the City. It was really well done, and hopefully they fixed the video.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Or the North Plains.
If you
side.
go to our website,
Yeah.
there'll be a link to the YouTube on
I
there.
saw it off of Facebook.
Thank you,
really?
Councilor Martinez.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me too.
Okay, any good of the order, general announcements?
I mean, we had WC Sales visited today with their marketing communications team, and they're gonna make a little virtual tour of the library that they're gonna put on the WC Sales website. So that's exciting. The WCCLS are cooperative
Oh, okay.
on the, like the cat, where you go search for a book, the
Oh,
main
okay.
website. They're gonna put a little virtual tour of the different libraries, so they
Oh,
came and visited us today.
And they were videoing the story time.
Yeah, they were
That's
here
kinda
during,
cool.
yeah,
And
Bridget was
looking at all the
volunteer.
extra little things like the teen stuff. And it was-
In our pregame here discussions, I don't think any of us is very sure on our terms.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
And
Yeah,
so-
you should,
and
if
so,
you have your
if
binder,
we
they
could-
should
Oh,
be
it's
in
in
there.
Oh, is it in the binder? Oh, mine's at home. I'll look.
They're
Is
supposed
there
to.
in our binders?
They should be in your binder.
Oh.
That was one of the things I made sure to
Yeah.
include.
Is that somewhere?
Where? Out of that. The very back.
Well, depends on how you look at it, but probably, yeah. Anyway, it is in there, I remember seeing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Let's
so
look
I
at
do
mine.
believe that is, thank you for bringing that up, because we will, at the end of, in the June meeting, we'll need to choose a chair and vice chair for next fiscal year. And then I do believe that
I
Carol's,
think that's for me.
Carol's second term on the library board will be done.
And you're limited to how many terms
You
you
can
can
do
do.
two.
Yeah.
And so, yes, June, so we'll plan some sort of a get together. Maybe we can go down the street
On the
again.
road
That was
again?
fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And after board and
That'd be nice.
but yes, if you
Can't
don't
find
find
anything?
it, I can resend it out.
Vacancies.
They're never letting you go.
You're in your second term and you'll be finishing your first year of your second term.
Me?
Really?
Yeah, because Bridget,
Oh, I thought it was
because you said you did want to do a second term, and so then we started that last July. It's on the fiscal year.
Expect me to remember this?
Right.
So I'm happy to send it out again,
Yeah,
or that's fine. I don't mind, I have it in a folder.
so June 30th is when you
Yeah,
expire.
Yeah, we put them on the
When she
fiscal year.
expires, well, she's not
Just
expiring.
Well, I
because
hope not, yeah.
then it coincides with the chair and vice chair
There are
election,
days.
et cetera.
There are days.
Yeah,
I just thought it had.
No, you don't get,
Anything
you don't get
else?
to leave.
so I'll send it out.
Any people on Zoom?
I do want to apologize that the mayor announced that Bridget was the chair of the library board at the State of the City. And I did tell them your name, Tim, when they were making their slideshow. But I think what happened was with our new website, when our new website went live, it pulled like from some
Oh, from
old
old stuff.
information somehow. And I'm wondering if that's what happened. I'm not sure, because I was specifically asked to verify who the chair was, and I said,
Well, I'll be having a restless night's sleep, knowing that
Sure.
Bridget.
But I'm sorry about that.
That's okay, it doesn't show up on YouTube, that part.
Anyway, that's the only good of the order I think.
Oh,
I
yeah. But that's the worst thing that ever occurs, we're in good shape. Well, so our next meeting, approval of our next board meeting, April 17th. Have a motion?
I moved it. We have a
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Council Martinez. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Are we adjourned? Tim?
Yes.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Bye.
Bye. See you next time.